name is Sam. I'm a Kripalu yoga instructor and an exposure therapy coach at the Anxiety Institute, which is an outpatient program for adolescents with anxiety. Today, I'll share with you 3 tips that can help ease anxiety. So although I primarily work with adolescents who have anxiety disorders or OCD or trauma-related conditions, I think a lot of us experience anxiety, especially at the time that this is filmed. There's a pandemic going on, so there can be a lot that comes up. So the first tip I have for you is to change your physiology. Usually when we feel anxiety, there are physiological systems going on in our body and sensations that tell us that we're anxious. So some people, they experience fast heart rates or shortness of breath, or shaking, or feeling really hot or warm. There's so many different combinations and ways that we know that we're anxious. So a few different ways to change your physiology is, if you're in a situation, you're feeling all those symptoms come up, is to try to do the opposite. So if you're feeling super hot and almost suffocating and really uncomfortable when you feel anxiety, you can go get a cold pack, an ice pack, or hold ice in your hands, or place the ice pack over your forehead to trigger the mammalian diving response. So another method is just go outside. If you're inside, you feel sort of trapped, that anxious feeling is coming up, go outside, go for a walk. Usually on the other side of that, you'll feel differently. Even if the anxious thoughts are still there will be some kind of physiological change. Breath work is a really incredible way to change our physiology too. A lot of the times, if you're somebody who experiences panic attacks, usually there's hyperventilation, which is really fast breathing. So it can be helpful to do the opposite. And the trick is to do the opposite long enough that there is some kind of physiological change. So some people will slowly breathe in and out for maybe 10 breaths and be like, that didn't do anything. So the key is to do it long enough that your body gets to understand, oh, I'm safe. I can breathe more slowly. And that usually changes things. If you're interested in slowing down the breath, you can always do equal inhales, equal exhales. Start with a count of 4, exhale for 4, and eventually try to make the exhales a little longer. Maybe see if you can count to 5, 6, or 7 with time. The second tip I have for you is to identify the distressing thoughts and then to choose a new thought. I'll tell you what I mean by that. An example, I used to have a phobia of public speaking. So after giving some kind of presentation in college or high school or whatever, I'd either faint afterward, get sick, vomit, get really nauseous, get really shaky, and I would get a bad grade because I was visibly so nervous. So it was a problem. And if I look at it now, so if I were to use this tip then, so the first layer, if I'm like, why was I anxious? The thought that comes up is oh, I didn't want to mess up. Okay. The next question I ask is, why? And what is truer than that? What's beneath that? Why are you afraid of messing up? And eventually the core belief would probably be something like, I'm not smart enough, so my presentation isn't good enough. Or I'm afraid the people in class will judge me. So that core belief can translate to, I'm not likable enough. So it's some layer of I'm not enough, which I think a lot of us can deal with, or can deal with, so a lot of us do deal with, is what I meant to say. So once we understand that core distressing thought, that core belief, then we have an opportunity to change the internal narrative and switch and choose a different thought or belief. So in this example that I'm giving, then the next progression would be, or the new thought would be, I am smart. I am capable of making a great presentation. I am likable enough. And then I would choose one of those to focus on, even if it feels totally out of reach, I don't believe that, just be in the thought exercise and experiment of it, So we got that. Now, to help us start to strengthen that belief and that thought pattern, we start to look for a little evidence for that. So if I chose that belief of like, all right, I want to believe that I'm likable, then I will think of, I love writing things down, so I would write down like, these are scenarios where I know I felt liked or likable. So it could be like a time a friend gave me a really sweet compliment. It could even be, I know that I have a really great support system of friends. It could be, I know I'm likable because like students in my yoga classes like my yoga classes and continue to come. I know I'm likable because I've been hired for X, Y, and Z job before. So clearly that employer has liked me enough to hire me for that position. So things like that, gather information. At the time that I release this video, I also will create a worksheet for you to sort of write it out and have it just like at your fingertips to use whenever the anxiety does come up or you want a journaling exercise. I find this so helpful, so helpful. And I continue to do this to this day. Last tool number 3, is to lean into your support system. So sometimes even when we are trying to create new evidence for these thoughts and these new core beliefs, it can be helpful to ask our friends like, hey, am I likable? Ask our family, what do you like about me? You know, something like that. And aside from that, like aside from the evidence gathering piece, it just might feel nice when we're anxious to text a friend, text a family member, and you might be surprised. They might have, even if they seem like they got all their stuff together and they're good, they might have gone through some similar things that you're experiencing and that you're going through. So they might be able to give some really interesting insight or reflect something you're not able to see in that moment. I don't know about you, but for me, when I feel anxious, I'm like so in the storm of it. You know, that it's almost like blinding to really see the truth on the other side of the anxiety. So I find my friends, my family, my partner are all really great mirrors for me. They can show me what I'm missing. And I'll say that like storm has gotten less and less like thick and less like hard to manage and survive in as I've worked through these tools and so many other tools and my yoga practice and everything. So I hope that this was helpful. If you have any questions, let me know. You can email me at samrolleryoga@gmail.com. Yeah, be well.